Alrighty. Let's see if we can knock this out in one take, shall we? I'm assuming it didn't turn on. And hello. My name is David Bolger, for those who I have not yet met, and today I would like to talk about isometric contractions. Yes, a very exciting subject because it's something no one talks about. And this coincides with passive versus active stretching and what I have experienced and witnessed throughout years of physical practices, whether it be from sports to military to CrossFit to yoga and functional training. Now, what do I mean by isometric contraction and its role in passive versus active stretching? And in particular, what I would like to address is injury. Okay? Fun fact, I've never seen in a class or in some kind of sporting environment, and I have never worked with a person in massage therapy or any form of body work that has injured themselves performing an isometric contraction. That's just me, but I have never seen it or heard of it. What I have seen a lot of is yogis, health and fitness practitioners who injure themselves often and sometimes get injured by other teachers. I have been that teacher, who take themselves to an end range stretch, and instead of pausing at that moment where we feel resistance, we push further, we pull further, we get that good stretch sensation and we just can't help but feel like ripping our arm off is the best way to relieving that strain. There's something to working into a sensation, but it's a whole other thing working into sensation compared to working into pain. Pulling and pushing further into a barrier versus working at the barrier. So I'd like to just give one or two quick examples that hopefully will help to clarify this sensation that you could be feeling throughout the entire body. Now, what do I mean first by an isometric contraction? If I have the bicep, here I would have a concentric contraction. I'm pulling, I'm shortening that muscle. An eccentric contraction would be a lengthening of the muscle. It's still contracting as it's lengthening, but it's working in resistance to the tricep until it reaches its full range. And then we would call this being stretched while this is being contracted. Concentric, eccentric. Isometric would be taking a weight, taking yourself on a pull-up bar, whatever it is, right here. I'm flexing, I'm controlling the antagonist and the agonist. I'm working all of the surrounding musculature, but I'm not allowing the limb to move. It is staying in place. It is isolated, isometrically contracting. Concentric, eccentric, isometric. And you can do that isometric contraction at any point. Now, this can be done for 1 second, just to show off the guns, or this can be done for several minutes at a time, using what I would call, what maybe the FRC program, if you're familiar, would call ramping. A ramping up of tension and a ramping down of tension. So again, I will use one or two examples. Why not go for a twist? So in a yoga twist, right, I could reach my arm across the body. I start to see what's available in the sacrum, mid-chest, upper chest, and ooh, right here, I feel like I'm not going to go any further, okay? feel like I've met resistance, whether it's in the form of hips, neck, shoulders, doesn't really matter. I've met resistance. Now I could continue to try to lengthen out. I could continue to try to concentrically pull on one side while I'm pressing with the other. I can meet that wall and then see what else is available. Or I can meet that wall, back off just a little bit, or hold my place, and then engage. What is the stretchy stuff that's being lengthened? Can I turn that on just a little bit? What is the stuff that's pulling me around? Can I continue to turn that on a little bit? As I ramp up the tension gently and I find what my safest maximal range is for engagement, I can pause, breathe, and maybe after 5 breaths, maybe after 2 or 3 minutes, as I de-ramp that tension back to a normal amount of effort that would keep me in this place, usually what you'll find is more range is available. Okay? One other example. Pulling arm across the body. A passive stretch would be taking one limb and pulling it. Here I could be actively stretching. But if I'm in this position, I find, my passive range of mobility. Here, I could continue to pull, I could continue to reach and strive, or I can pause. I can either do one of two things here. I can press in to this front arm. I can press in, feeling all of that stretchy stuff turn on. Or I can simply try to hold. Breathing here, engaging, seeing what's going on both sides of the joint, ramping up the tension until I find my safe maximal effort. And as I de-ramp that tension, I start to relax that stretchy stuff. The joint finds a bit more space to work with, and chances are I get a bit more passive range. And it's a very good chance that'll happen. Because when you work this ramping up and ramping down sort of technique, you find what was restricting you may not have just been the muscle you're trying to work. It could be something deeper in the joint capsule itself. It could be something restricting on the engaging side. So think about your hand. You know, if I just hold my hand like this, and I try to punch someone in a very friendly yogi manner, my hand will just collapse. But as I continue to squeeze, I feel musculature in my thumb turn on. I feel musculature in my pinky side turn on. I feel radiating tension going all the way into the forearm. And the more I squeeze, the more of the body is incorporated. So things that may have been totally relaxed, areas of the body that you're trying to stretch or work with that may have been overwhelmed, hyperactive, they get a little bit of break, while the areas that are totally relaxed have the incentive to turn on. Then when you return to a more normal way of being, you find there's a more total sense of feeling. Why isometric contractions are safer, generally speaking, than consistent end range stretching or strength work is because we're allowing the nervous system to understand the totality of what is involved in said movement. 9 times out of 10, you can walk into the gym, you can slap on a bunch of weight for your bench press, and you can barely squeeze out that last one and be totally fine. You know that that weight was a bit too much, but if you just grind it out, you'll get it. But 1 time out of 10, if we haven't explored the full range of said motion, if we've gotten to that point where we're completely stuck and we just expect to blast through that barrier every single time, that is when injury occurs, because we haven't trained that musculature in that specific range with that specific load capacity. However, I know many champion bodybuilders powerlifters or whatever, strong people, that when they get to that point on some of their max rep days, there's a point where they will push and they will attempt, but very quickly they find that simply holding this for 2 to 3 breaths before giving up on that final rep is going to be far more beneficial for their overall strength and recovery than just trying to blast through time and time again. And the same goes with the flexible yogis. If your only goal is to stretch and pull further because some reason flexibility means enlightenment, you will injure yourself. Both from a strength and a flexibility perspective, from an active and a passive perspective, we need to understand the benefit of resting in place. And we also need to understand the benefit of working in place. What can we do with a bit of stillness? Isometric contractions. Try them out. Grab a wall. Grab a wall. Feel what it's like to squeeze a pole really hard and then maintain. Feel what it's like to press out to a point and maintain. Feel what it's like to stretch to a point before you passively give in and before you aggressively pull forward. Just try to maintain. And I think that was a successful take. So next time,